involved very much in like intricate thought process, much the same as I was when I was younger. You know, I'm still engaged. At times, man, I'll get caught on an idea. You know, I might spend 4 or 5 hours in the room trying to figure out. And even in comedy, there were bits that I thought, that initially they were great bits. But you were like, listen, man, you know, what is the point of what I'm saying? You know, how is this valuable for my, not just, I don't look at them as my audience, but my community. You know, what is this that I'm contributing to these people? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're bits, you know, they're bits, they might have been 30 minutes long. You spend 6 months to a year getting them to be just 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Have them, you know, accessible.
Yeah. So I was just asking you that because I just want to hear from another Muslim that Dave Chappelle is Muslim.
You ask him.
Only that.
I mean,
no, you know, if I could ask him, I would. But let me ask you now. Now you formed this group, Allah Made Me Funny.
Yes.
But what was the genesis of that? And all during when you were formulating your comedy, was there some thoughts about Islam and Muslims when you were doing that, and how you could kind of do that as something that the community could benefit from?
Well, like I said, I was always a socially conscious comedian. But I had a tour before Allah Made Me Funny called End of Racism Comedy and Lecture Tour. And End of Racism was a basic concept whereby you would take aspects of humor and make them applicable to critical race theory that have been out there and tie it into current events. So you can do stories, you know, you can do narratives partially about your life, but you can pull in real life information and be able to put it in a platform that's maybe an hour to an hour 15 minutes. And what I found is once I mastered that skill of being able to talk about racial humor and have it be more than, you know, just, you didn't want it to be offensive as much as you wanted it to be effective and valuable for people as they listen to it. What I found was that dawah was coming out of that. So it was like you were doing dawah in front of audiences that were not Muslim. You know, and I heard it from a sheikh that says, what makes you think that Muslims don't need dawah too? You have to, you know, that's why we pray 5 times a day. You have to invite yourself back to, you know, you have to invite yourself back to the greatness of Allah.
Right.
And you have to be reminded. So we talk about dawah, you know, in terms of non-Muslim, well, we need dawah. So I was doing these colleges all over the place, you know, 85 to 100 colleges a year. And I would see Muslims in the audience, and they would come and they'd be like, oh, you gave it, and I'd say, assalamu alaikum. Huh? You know, so sometimes they weren't aware that there were people out there doing it outside, you know, the usual suspects in the Muslim community. When 9/11 happened, I had to practice restraint, meaning that I had to really see how this battle was going to play out and see how people were going to react before I tried to implement any kind of strategy.
Now, which battle are you talking about?
The battle of Muslims trying to be relevant after a crisis, because there was a division. You know, there's a huge division. There are people who were trying to be, in some regards, loyal to factions or ideas that weren't necessarily relevant to people. And then you had some people that were just trying to be accommodating, you know, to blend in. And it's like, what is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is that balance going to be? And it was interesting because you saw how people, even with the media, you know, I used to do a joke that after 9/11, you know, you couldn't see any black Muslims on TV unless you watched the show on HBO, Oz, which was a prison show.
Right.
And it's like, people go, oh, that's mean spirit. I'm like, no, that's very true. There was a very deliberate, you know, deliberate action that you split people. And it started with immigrant Muslims, African American Muslims. You move one to the side, and then it was a split between who are the fundamentalists, who are the moderate progressives. And you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And we've seen this before in the African American community going back to the 50s and 60s. We had that with Malcolm and Martin. We had that with, you know, SNCC and CORE. You had all these groups being put against each other.
Right.
So it was like I had to sit back and say to myself, well, how do we effectively put that out there? I have this philosophy about talking about Islam today, and I say, sometimes our efforts mute one another because you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 organizations trying to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the resources are tapped, the effectiveness is muted in some regards. It's like fighting in a phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to fight, someone who says something bad about Muslims, but it's like 8, 9 of you, and that person said it and is gone.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't even in the phone booth. You're just beating up on each other.
Right.
So you have like this cannibalism of this idea of preserving the Muslim image, Muslim integrity. I'm like, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to establish a fertile area. You have to establish a place where you have leverage, having, strategic positioning, but you also have information.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that you're going to get on that thing, those are people who really want to find out that information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, the conundrum is like, well, is it mainstream enough? No, we're not talking about the mainstream. TV is just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned from doing the End of Racism comedy tour is that it was a very, very organic thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was based around the people.
Mm-hmm.
So I had, 7 years of that already.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I'd stay here and I'll build my skills here. So when the time came to do All That Made Me Funny, it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm gonna build my skills in this area. I'm gonna be that traveler again, be that nomad again. Nobody knows me
Mm-hmm.
in this particular area. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna slowly build strategy.
I said, Mom, what's up? She said, baby, I need to talk to you. Listen, baby, whew. I know that you are a Muslim now. A Muslim, that's Mooslim, Muslim. I don't know everything. I don't know everything. I know that you and Jesus aren't talking right now. But listen, Mama has a problem. I was hoping you can help me out. I was like, what is it, Mom? She said, well, now listen, baby. It's Mother's Day down at the church. Got a celebration. Everybody's bringing their mama. And I bought tickets for us. When I bought the tickets, I didn't know you were going to be Muslim. And I can't take them back. They're $50 a piece. So what I was hoping, because you're the only baby I ever had, I ain't never had no other children other than you, was that you can come take me to the thing. And when your mom starts crying, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll go. People, it was a setup. It was the old black Christian intervention trick. I walked into church, everybody knew I was Muslim. Even the old ladies. I was like, hey, Miss Johnson. She was like, hey, Satan. You know it's bad when you walk through and the whole choir is singing about you. Doors flung open, they just singing, Jesus help this fool, cause he's going to hell. Jesus help this fool, cause he's going to hell. Hell, Jesus help this fool, cause he's going to hell. Jesus help this fool, cause he's going to
When you got started, were there any Muslims who were knowledgeable, who advised you about, how you should go about what you're going to do?
Yes, Reginald Kitchen. We call him Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Kitchen first. And once he watched a videotape of me of his house, like I drove all the way up to Northern Virginia, and we made Fajr, and he watched my tape, and he told me that my skills, my strengths, and he's correct at the time, my strengths were as a writer and a communicator, more so than just being a comedian. And he said, focus on that. This piece will come. He said, focus on this. And he's a basketball expert. So he's basically saying, listen, anybody can shoot,
Right.
but you need to work on your defense. You need to work on your strategy. You need to work on your teamwork, your footwork. Metaphorically, these are the things he was telling me. And he was true. And then the imam at my masjid, Masjid